What's up, guys? It's a boy Zowoki back out with some more of the Chris Watts and Nichol Kessinger, more centralized on Nichol Kessinger. But these are theories that might be possible. There's like 3 of them, and we're gonna take a look at them right now that you guys have been asking me to watch. It's a channel called Truth Untold. I want you guys to go over to their channel, give them some love by subscribing, commenting, liking, sharing. You know the deal. How many times do I gotta tell you guys? Support, and support. And with that being said of saying support, make sure you guys support my channel by hitting the white bar icon down the bottom right. Hit that bell icon next to it. So when I do post videos like this one, you guys will get that little ring notification that I posted that video. And then you guys can watch, comment, like, and share. And again, I thank you guys so very much for the love and support that you guys show on my channel every single day. Hopefully one day we'll hit that 100K goal. But until that time, it's going to be Nichol Kessinger time. We are going to be, obviously you guys are probably like, oh my gosh, how many videos are we going to do of Nichol Kessinger over and over? You know what? We're trying to build a case here. That's all we're trying to do. And watching theories about a woman that possibly had destroyed this family. And is it going to hurt it? No. So we're going to watch these right now. So grab a chair, get comfortable, and let's get into the video. Theory number 1.
In this series of videos, I'll try and explore potential theories of what happened the morning of the Chris Watts murders. I'll try and present an unbiased, objective view of what potentially took place that fateful morning.
We like unbiased because we want to see both sides. We want to try to see what happened, if she's innocent or guilty. Sorry, I had a little something in my throat.
What potentially led to the various and many contradictions, coincidences with the use of the evidence that we have with the case. Because we all know, anyone who's ever took an interest in the Watts case, you get that gut feeling, the feeling you just can't shake, but something's not quite right with the story people have been fed, especially from mainstream media and law enforcement.
Which they don't talk about, Nichol, at all.
What you're about to see
very much.
And hear, all I ask is that you keep an open mind. Try not to have any presumptions or opinions too close that you already have, and just listen. So here it is, theory number 1 in the Chris Watts murders. On the Sunday night, Shanann was due home from a work trip, and Nichol Kessinger knew this. I believe Nichol Kessinger was a very jealous and paranoid person.
And why did she possibly know this? I have to say possibly because I can't say for a fact that she knew. But she was talking with Chris for 2 hours, give or take, 111-minute phone call before Shanann came home. So she had to have known that Shanann was on her way home.
She displays this in many interviews, comparing herself to Shanann, that Shanann's a person that likes materialistic things in life, and she described herself to not have any interest in them type of things. But I believe it's because she knew she didn't have them things and was jealous and envious of Shanann and the children Chris had with her. I believe her paranoia grew and grew over time, and especially getting frustrated that she was just a dirty little secret and second fiddle. And I believe NK did.
I think she liked to be that little dirty secret. Like, again, like we said before, I say I like a lot. I'm sorry. She, try not to say like, wants a challenge. She enjoys the challenge. And for her, destroying that family was a challenge completed. Apparently, she likes to go to a lot of married men. There was a married guy or wife that came into one of the comments one of the days back and had stated that her husband was almost subjected, or how do I say this? Was the subject of her web of tangles that she was trying to get this man in. And yeah, I'd like to talk to her some more. So
didn't have any faith that Chris would in fact leave his wife. The evidence points to this also, with NK going to Google to search "man I'm having an affair with says he'll leave his wife." She had no faith in what Chris Watts was telling her, and the insecurities were massive. So back to Sunday night, when Shanann was due back, Chris and Nichol Kessinger held a 111-minute phone call, which to this day,
they can't remember at all.
None of them can explain what they were discussing. But what if this was NK being so needy and insecure that she needed constant reassurance from Chris that they had a future, and that when Shanann came home, he wouldn't be sleeping with her and kicking Nick Kessinger to the curb?
Oh yeah, she was jealous.
Kessinger knew Shanann was returning home that night and into the early hours. So it's part of my theory number one that this was playing on Kessinger's mind that much that she felt she needed to drive to Chris's house to spy on him leaving for work. The paranoia built up to a point where she had to see him, worrying she might see him kiss his wife goodbye or embrace her as he left for work. Kessinger knew
Why else would her phone have pinged in Frederick, Colorado the morning of the murders to Mr. Jim Gutowski, however you pronounce his name, and she had no alibi that morning. She showed up to work late. Do I need to continue on?
everything about Chris. She knew everything about Shanann as well too. She even searched a year before Chris Watts and Shanann Watts, and we never got an explanation to that.
She also did their address.
So I believe she was there the morning of the 13th of August,
I agree.
sitting in her vehicle, watching, waiting to catch Chris with his wife.
That's why her phone would have pinged up all over the place in the neighborhood.
But she saw more than she was expecting. She literally was there watching Chris Watts load his dead wife's body onto his truck, and then his girls. And we know for a fact she was there. The evidence in the discovery file proves that.
That's another theory that I think would be possible is Chris murdered his family, freaked out, called Nichol, said, "Nichol, I did something terrible." She's like, "I got this," came over and helped take care of the situation. Again, it's a theory. It's all alleged. I can't say that it's a fact. So I want to throw that out there so people are not saying, "Oh, Zowoki's saying that it's fact." No, I'm not. I'm just saying that it's possibly a direction that could be in the case.
Because a phone pinged in Frederick at 6:16 a.m. Making a phone call, and probably to a good friend Jim, who she was so desperate to leave out of the investigation, maybe
So
confiding
desperate.
in him what she'd just witnessed.
And then after Chris went to prison, it was Jim.
The evidence in the discovery file on the case doesn't prove she actually went to work that day or not. We don't know for sure, but what we do know is that
She clocked in for like an hour at like 2 to 3-ish, called her SCX therapist, some 73-year-old guy, which again, we had to see that she was looking up and calling a rehab facility. And the only facility that I think that would, or the reason why she was calling this facility, it didn't seem like she drank a lot, but she was doing it. When I say doing it, we're talking about the butt stuff. She was doing it all too much. She enjoyed it that they were doing it 5 to 6 times a day. What the crap?
Chris and asked about.
So she probably called because she was a SCX addiction.
It's a cryptic song called Battery by Metallica.
She told him to look
with
or listen to
creepy
it.
lyrics, including the words, "Cannot kill the battery, cannot kill the family. Battery is found in me." We know
And those are batteries.
Chris Watts or whoever placed the bodies of his girls in oil tanks, and them tanks are called batteries. Was this her unsubtle way of saying, "Do not kill your family, Chris"? Because she knew if she simply texted it to him, she'd been accomplice to murder. So the next and best way to get a message to Chris was to ask him about lyrics to a song she knew he knew.
That makes sense.
And Nichol Kessinger was asking Chris about these lyrics the morning that he was disposing of his girls' bodies and his wife, where he'd just annihilated his entire family and placed his girls in an oil battery.
I don't feel like it was a coincidence.
It's so rare in life that we see genuine coincidences. So with the knowledge and her witnessing what she saw that morning, she went to law enforcement first, because she knew what Chris had done and they would eventually come knocking.
That part I disagree. She came forward because she knew that Anna Darko was like, oh, there was a mistress. Do you guys want these emails? And then she's like, oh crap, I gotta go in and do damage control is what she said.
Asking her questions. District Attorney Michael Rourke, in an interview, described the information that they'd learned from Nichol Kessinger as bombshell. And in my opinion, the fact that Chris Watts, a man, had
There was no bombshell.
a mistress and was having an affair with a woman isn't really bombshell level of info. So my question is, was she there that morning?
I think so.
And did she witness Chris Watts
Because there's been times you could see two heads over here.
loading his wife's body onto his truck? And is that why, to this day, NK, Nichol Kessinger, is a ghost? She's not been seen or heard from, or even blamed for anything from law enforcement or family members involved.
Oh, I've seen her.
She was there, and she was their star witness. And she potentially made a deal to be forever protected because of the information she gave law. This is my theory number one, and take it how you will. The deeper you look, the more these ideas make sense, and the more the official story is just a smokescreen, because there's so many lies, so much evidence, and these so-called coincidences, but yet no answered questions.
It is.
Thank you for watching.
Nice. I like that theory. Here's the theory number 2.
In my series of videos relating to the Chris Watts murder case. These videos are just ideas and opinions and theories of what could have occurred the night Shanann, Bella, Cece and Nico was murdered.
So for those haters, calm down.
You have to remember, this particular video isn't what I 100% believe happened, and it's just like it says, a theory, on all the evidence, on all the contradictions and coincidences, and everything we have in this case. So as you're watching it, keep an open mind, and maybe it will spark an idea in your own head of what happened that night. So here it is, theory number 2.
That's why I want to hear your guys' theories.
Nichol Kessinger, Chris Watts' mistress, despised everything about Shanann Watts. She'd got with a man that had everything.
Nichol acted like the first woman. She would sit there and say things like, oh, you can't do that and sleep with another woman. Like, wait a minute, you are the other woman. She would say Shanann's name like she was pissed off. Like, what would you be pissed off for? You entered the family, or you entered the situation as the second woman. You're not the main squeeze. Like, what does this girl think she is?
Great kids, a good house and job, and a wife that she was so jealous of. And during her relationship with Chris, she tried to point out the differences between her and Shanann, like the fact that Shanann would like the materialistic things in life, and tried to insist that she was nothing like this, and that she didn't need the car, the big house, and everything that comes with it. She was already planting the seed in Chris's head. Kessinger would frequently ask Chris if he'd spoken to his family, his mum and dad, enforcing the idea that Shanann had created a barrier and turmoil between him and his own parents. And Kessinger knew intimate details of Chris's and Shanann's financial situation. She made sure that she was aware of his income and what debt he had, strengthening the idea for Chris to believe that what he had with Shanann was a farce. Chris and Kessinger would frequently...
It's almost like reverse psychology. Like, oh, you don't like her because she does this. She doesn't know what you like. I do. She would sit there and, oh man, she did so many manipulation things on Chris. Not saying that Chris is not excused for his hand or his hand at the murders. But I just wanted to say that that woman manipulated him in so many ways like a puppet.
talk what their plans would be moving forward with their relationship, including looking for an apartment. And during these conversations, Kessinger was very keen on knowing if Shanann would be living close to Chris, already showing signs, before Chris had even split up with Shanann, that she was the jealous type. I believe early on in the relationship, Chris and Kessinger would discuss what life would be like if he didn't have children or a wife, trying to tease him over to the idea that he would be debt-free with no responsibilities and he could live the life he was sampling with Kessinger. And when Shanann and the kids went to stay with her parents for 5 weeks, Chris was supposed to be staying at home, but the thing is, he wasn't at home.
Nope.
He was constantly, every day, every night, at Kessinger's apartment. She made sure that he had no reminders of what his actual family was, no pictures on the walls, no reminders of the things at home he'd bought with Shanann. Kessinger was isolating him from all these things like a predator, keeping him away so that she could poison his mind, and Chris was a willing victim. That Kessinger and Chris openly spoke, maybe in the beginning as a joke about getting rid of his family, fantasizing about a life without everything he used to hold.
Definitely does seem possible that they're like joking, like, oh, we would be able to be together if your family was around. Wait, let's do that. Like, that's probably how it went.
Because on the Saturday, the 11th of August, he went to a restaurant called the Lazy Dog with Kessinger. And Chris...
And apparently that night that she was eating with Chris there, he had gone to the bathroom and she had Googled the address that he lived at for some reason and Ronnie Watts. Why at that moment did she do that? That's definitely puzzling.
To this day regrets, out of all the things he's ever said, this event of him going to the Lazy Dog is one of the biggest ones he wished he'd never done. So you have to ask yourself why this event of simply going to a restaurant with his mistress 2 days before his kids and wife was murdered, why this was so paramount to what happened 2 days later. Well, one of the theory is that him and Kessinger fine-tuned their idea and their plan to once and for all to rid him of his wife. And in this theory, I don't believe the original plan was for Chris and Kessinger to kill his kids. I believe the original plan was to kill Shanann, but something went wrong.
Bella saw.
So it brings us to Sunday, the 12th of August, the night before the murders. Chris and Kessinger were on the phone finalising the finer details to their plan. In interviews after everything occurred, both Chris and Kessinger deny remembering what the conversation was about, but I believe they both definitely know exactly what they were talking about. Because you have to ask yourself, why deny knowledge of the conversation happening in the first place if there was nothing criminal being discussed? So Kessinger and Chris had their plan. They would wait until Shanann came home from a work trip. One idea is that Kessinger was waiting in the basement until Chris did what he thought he had to do, and she would...
And it shows that Shanann never went down to the bathroom or basement, because it shows that she went up one flight of stairs. She went up, not down. So she would have never known that Nichol could have been in the basement. We've seen a purple like eye covering. We've seen a separate phone. Could be Chris Watts's other phone, could be his work phone, whatever have you. We've seen a mysterious purse. We've seen a bag of clothes that has women jeans in it. It's just, sorry, all these different things that really raise eyebrows, questions, and red flags. So,
helping clean up. And when Chris was arrested, he didn't have any defensive marks on him at all.
well, he had the like here and like here, but then Nichol had her sleeves covered in 93 to 98 degree weather. So that's a little sus in itself. Who wears that in that hot kind of thing? Yeah. So let's continue.
So I believe Chris waited until Shanann fell asleep and choked her out from behind, either using his hands or his arm to put her in a chokehold and snuff the life from Shanann. But it is my fear that something went wrong. The kids heard the commotion in Chris and Shanann's bedroom, and either both or one of them came in and saw him doing what he was doing to Shanann. And Chris Watts now knew he could never have the life he wanted with Kessinger, because there was now witnesses to him murdering his wife.
Because Bella was such a smart little girl. And if they would have said, what happened to mommy? Chris would have been thrown under the bus. Nichol would have been thrown under the bus. So they had to get rid of them, unfortunately.
It was Bella and Cece. And the only way out of this mess that he had created was that his kids could not be alive to testify against him as witnesses. Chris knew he wouldn't be able to kill his own children, but he had a partner in his devious plan.
That's
she was
what I
waiting
think.
downstairs in the basement ready. Kessinger and Chris knew that to get away with what they'd just done, they couldn't have any witnesses, including his children. So one of them would have to murder Bella and Cece. So it is my fear that Kessinger was the one that smothered Shanann and Chris's children. And when Chris said in an interview later on that he would never hurt his children, and he was adamant about this fact, I believe that to be true.
I mean, we can't believe him. The man's a huge liar. But maybe that is the truth. He didn't harm his girls. It was Nichol. So who knows? But we will never know until Nichol is talked to.
But it was, in fact, Kessinger that did do it. So in the early hours of Monday morning, with the help of Kessinger, Chris prepared the bodies of his wife and kids and put them in his truck. Chris's neighbour, Nate, his CCTV footage picked up Chris leaving that morning, and some say, including myself, you can see a person leaving the house, which is a woman, who I believe to be Kessinger. She followed Chris out to the worksite, Survey 319.
Which there was
But
dual
before
tracks.
this, she made a quick phone call to her good friend Jim, either to confide in him what had just happened,
or we need
or
help.
to tell him that the plan had gone wrong, and that he was fully aware of Chris and Kessinger's plan in the first place. But either way, she made that phone call outside the Watts house that morning. That is a fact. And by the time Chris and Kessinger had got to the worksite, they had very little time to dig a shallow grave, dispose of the kids' bodies, all before work colleagues turned up. So in the time he had to do it all, it can't have possibly been done alone.
There's no way.
There's also evidence from Chris's phone. He didn't walk up and down the oil battery steps. So was this Kessinger that walked up them steps and disposed of Bella and Cece in the oil batteries, and it's Chris that dug and buried Shanann's body? It's my opinion in this theory. I also believe that the bombshell information that Kessinger provided law enforcement was that she was aware of the murders. She knew exactly where
But then how
they
did
needed
she?
to look.
But then how did she get like protected? She was a protected witness, but she wasn't put in the witness protection program. But that would be a bombshell that she knew about the murders. And they're like, oh, for your cooperation, for you telling us about Chris, we'll not seek any legal action.
And struck a deal with law enforcement for her information and involvement in it all. And she simply just broke first and she threw Chris under the bus, approaching them first and cutting a deal. Remember, this is only a theory, but with this case from day one, things didn't make sense.
It did.
The official
Still doesn't.
story and interviews with all involved don't add up. It doesn't make sense why a seemingly loving husband and dad would do this, but once Kessinger got her claws into him and planting seeds of doubt and ideas of a life he could have with her, it doesn't make sense that she was present at the Watts house that morning, but yet in interviews it wasn't even asked about. It doesn't make sense that Chris killed his kids if all he wanted to be is to be with Kessinger. It doesn't make sense.
Unless you want a clean slate.
Chris's data doesn't show him walking up and down the steps. It doesn't make sense that he says if it wasn't for meeting Kessinger or going to the Lazy Dog,
his app doesn't show that he went up a level.
His family would still be alive. Doesn't make sense that if Kessinger's friend Jim could provide her with an alibi, that she was adamant to leave him alone.
These theories are
leave him out of the investigation.
pretty spot on.
All I know is that what law enforcement told us and what mainstream media wants us to believe is not what actually happened. And somewhere within these theories and other creators come up with ideas, they'll contain the truth somewhere.
Hopefully.
I'm Truth Untold.
So with that being said, guys, I think the striking of the deal is something of a possibility that could have been the bombshell, but we actually never heard of the bombshell because it was sworn to secrecy. Why? Because of Nichol Kessinger's father. Again, all alleged opinions, theories, not facts. So I don't want the haters to be like, oh, Zowoki said it was fact. Yeah, I didn't say it was fact. I'm just throwing it out there to possibly, hopefully, stir up the pot to see if Nichol Kessinger actually will say, hey, that's not right, or not, it's not right, or whatever, or come after me and try to sue me for defamation that these haters think I'm going to. They're like, oh, Nichol Kessinger could sue you for defamation. For what? I didn't. For defamation? Man, that would be something. But again, like I said before, please comment your thoughts down below. Don't forget to go over to Truth Untold. Link is in the description. And subscribe, comment, like, and share. And we'll see you guys in the next one. Keep it real, keep it safe. And as always, keep nerding on. We'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.